for the pledge. Joe, would you lead us in the pledge? Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan.
Here.
Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machado.
Here.
Michael Rather.
Here.
Jared Barrett. Zane Cantrell.
Present. Our regular members are here. We'll be voting on each item. The minutes were mailed out to you. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes?
No changes. I move for approval.
Have a motion that be approved. Do we have a second? Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. They are approved. Let me welcome each of you here today. We will have a report on each item that's coming before us from our staff. Following that, those of you who have a request before us, we'll ask you to come to the podium. You can share any additional information that we may not have, and there may be some questions. Following that, we'll have a public hearing, and those of you who would like to speak would please come to the podium, give us your name, and share information. We ask that you try to keep your comments within 3 minutes. First item we have is a request by Wanda Hall, who is requesting a special exemption for a produce stand. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-009, filed by Wanda Hall, involves the property at 6044 Lebanon Pike. She is seeking temporary special exception approval for a produce stand located in the CN zone, commercial neighborhood. It's a 1.6-acre site that's developed as a convenience store with gas station. Ms. Hall has located her produce stand here for many years. In 2013, when we changed the process to require a special exception approval from the board, she began to appear before the board, and since 2013, we've issued special exceptions for Ms. Hall and the operation of her produce stand from this site. In regards to the application itself, she's not changed anything in regards to the hours, the days of operation, and the produce stand will be located on the site as it has been in previous years. We've not received any complaints regarding this particular stand, nor did we receive any phone calls or in opposition or in favor of the request. We did have some informational calls, but that was it. And in the previous picture, you could see the produce stand that's been there. And this is just a site layout where the produce stand is located. We find that it meets the criteria for temporary special exception. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come forward, please. You've had a produce stand out there for some time? Yes. Okay. Do you have any other information you want to share about that? Are you the one that runs the stand? You'll be there. Okay, any questions from the board? Thank you. I'd be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
I move for approval.
Have a motion be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan.
Yes.
Joe Machado.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. It is
Motion
approved.
carried.
Okay. The next item is a request by Cynthia and Salvatore Plazoa, and They are requesting a variance relief for a setback from 20 foot to 12 foot. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-10 is a request for variance relief to reduce the rear yard setback requirement from 20 feet to 12 feet for a property located in the RL zone. The property is located at 7452 Magnolia Valley Drive. It's a 1.94 acre parcel located in the Magnolia Valley subdivision. And the home is constructed towards the rear of the property, as you can see in the aerial photograph. In 2015, the summer of 2015, they obtained a permit to construct or enclose an existing concrete pad and extend the existing concrete pad with an enclosed porched area. They relied on their contractor, and the actual work was permitted and inspected and closed out. However, the encroachment was recently discovered as a result of a complaint, and the applicant has come in and filed for application to correct or remedy the nonconformity by receiving variance approval. So this is the existing home that was constructed upon the site. It kind of elevates towards the rear. And then you can see surrounding homes in the area. We have received one call just inquiring about the request, but no one indicated that they were in favor or opposition to the request. As you can see, that this is the site plan. You can see the actual in blue, it's the structure as it was constructed in the original pad that was constructed. That the pad itself, when it was originally constructed, encroached, but it was open to the air, not subject to that 20-foot rear yard setback. But when they came back and enclosed it and extended it, it just increased the encroachment. And that concludes our presentation.
We have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come forward, please. Could you put the picture of the home back up there?
This is the correct home? Or, oh.
Do you have any other information you want to share?
Not really. I brought a few extra pictures to show you the backyard, where the porch is, but other than that. I'm sorry. I brought a few extra pictures to show you the back of the house, but other than that, I don't have anything else to add. This is, one's the left side, looking at the porch, that's the left side.
Have you owned the house since were you the original owner of the house?
No, we bought it from a first party. We had nothing to do with building the house.
But you hired a contractor to put the addition on the back of it.
We asked them to semi-enclose the porch. That's really what we did, semi-enclose the porch, the pad that was there by the builder.
Well, now it shows that it goes all the way across the back of the house, not just the pad.
We added to the wings, there's two doors that come out the back of the house, one out the kitchen, one out the master, so we filled in all across the back. And then we semi-enclosed it.
Well, did your contractor or you not realize that you were getting too close to the line?
We had no idea, and the contractor said nothing, and the permits were pulled, and nobody said anything about any kind of a restriction to the back of the property.
I guess I'm going to ask Danielle or somebody a question here about, are there anything, when they come in and apply for the construction, is there anything that says what the setback is supposed to be?
When a contractor or applicant comes in and applies for a permit, before they can be issued a permit, they have to obtain a zoning compliance form from our department. And that zoning compliance form lists the required setbacks that affect that particular property.
Okay, it looks like there's a fence back there. Did nobody not measure from the fence over to just get a rough estimate to see how far you were?
All I know is we went to a local contractor, told him what we wanted to have done, and put it into his hands from there. We didn't, what he did, we don't know until this was discovered back in December of last year.
Mr. Chairman, I guess a statement, really not a question. I understand what Ms. Michelle was talking about, but really, that licensed contractor, the applicant here has actually put it into the licensed contractor's hands to do their due diligence. And it doesn't appear that that contractor done their due diligence to check with the form and stuff that's supposed to come out of your all's office just for setbacks and other things that may need to be done. I mean, I know we get a lot of these coming up here, but I hate to hold a homeowner hostage over something that maybe a contractor may have overlooked as well. So.
From time to time, we point out to any groups that have a problem with the setback that they need to do some measuring. Sometimes contractors are just not up to speed of what they should be and know that this was getting too close. You know, it's getting to where it's very difficult to get these, and you're in a position to where you've already built, and if it's turned down, you would have to tear out what you've done. So it can be very serious and very costly, and folks need to be aware of this. Any other
because
questions?
we were going on the assumption that when our contractor included in our when he told us how much it's going to cost, our estimate, he included in there the prices for the permits to be pulled, and we just felt like we were doing everything by the book, and that he knew, and that when the permits were blessed, that everything
and that's what Gary was talking about. It holds you hostage if you get a contractor that's not on his toes about these kinds of things, and it's not always easy to come up here and get a variance for the setback. Any other questions?
Yes. Was this a local contractor, or was this somewhat out of Nashville, or?
It was local Craig Wilson Construction
Thank you, ma'am.
out of Murfreesboro.
We also had 3 bids that was relayed to us in that, and we chose Craig Wilson, but we used all local contractors for that. I also like to mention that the land in back of us is a dead zone. I mean, there's 325 acres back there that, quite frankly, I don't see how anybody would ever build back there and that. We didn't do it on purpose. Like I said, we pulled the permits, or they pulled the permits. We put it in the hands of them. That's what we paid them to do.
Gary?
Do you own that property as well?
No, sir. No, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. We appreciate it. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you come around to the podium.
My name is Paul M. Dyer. I live 1928 Cheatham Springs Road, Eagleville, 37060. I am the brother of Dr. David F. Dyer, Auburn, Alabama. Brother David and I own the family farm that's been in our family since 1931 when our grandfather bought the place. The first thing, so I'm here representing my brother and myself to an extent. The first thing I'd like to address is how did we get to this point where we've created conflict between my new neighbor and myself. Someone asked about the zoning compliance. This is a copy of it. It clearly says there's a 20-foot setback at the rear and 10 on each side. So from my perspective, it seems to me this should never have been issued. If they understood at all what was being built, it was obvious to the most casual observer that it was considerable encroachment on the 20-foot setback at the rear. So I think that was the first mistake. It was not a technicality, it was a gross violation of the setback. And then there's another piece of paper here that I think I'm right about this. It talks about building rough-in inspection, and it's all signed and approved. So it seems to me there was two gross errors made by the whoever's department this is. First, in issuing the compliance, and then second, in improving the rough-in construction. Question?
Yes, sir. With the zoning compliance form there, could you tell me who signed that?
I can't, it looks like Michelle, somebody, I can't read it.
Might I state, the zoning compliance form just lists the setback. We do not require a plot plan that would demonstrate that it's in compliance, but the zoning compliance form puts on alert the building department to know what setback to check whenever the first inspection is performed. But the zoning compliance form only lists the setbacks. It's not a confirmation like you would receive in a site plan approval.
I'm just trying to get at where the breakdown happened.
Well, sir, that really gets to my point. I grew up and spent a lot of time in the industry, and some of it very hazardous materials. But every time we had a mistake of any kind, we went to great detail to understand what went wrong and then to put in specific remedies for that failure. And so based on that, I think it's reasonable that I should get a written report from whoever is responsible that says specifically how this happens, because here I see this going on already. I'd like to know specifically how this happened. And in that report, I'd like to also see specific actions that have been taken to prevent this from happening again, because there are a number of other lots in the Magnolia subdivision that join our property. And I want to make darn sure this doesn't happen again. And I think that's a reasonable request. So all of that is kind of under the umbrella of how did we get here? It's created conflict between my new neighbors, and I detest that. The second thing is this letter that we received, my brother received, says, and we've said here that this is an application for a variance, and in this it gives a definition of a variance. It says a variance is issued to relieve hardship imposed on landowners by the zoning resolution based upon the unusual characteristics of a parcel of land. There are no unusual characteristics of this parcel of land. And therefore, I do not believe an application for a variance is a legitimate action to take to try to resolve this issue. It's just not an appropriate method of resolution. So, based on that, it's my recommendation that we do not approve this variance. Are there any questions?
You know, if we do not approve it, you would favor them tearing it down?
I hate that.
I'm asking,
there might
that's
be
the only alternative we have.
There is another alternative, maybe. And that is, there might be a way to negotiate buying a small part of land.
That's out of our...
I know it is, but there are probably other ways to do this. And it would be a very small parcel of land because we're not anxious to sell anything. But to try to resolve this, my brother might do it. I don't know whether he would or not. But there is another possible resolution.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. We'll take it under advisement. As far as any other problems you may have in there, I don't think that's within our realm of taking care of it. We do appreciate your concern. You might want to check with the developer, whoever developed that property and those homes out there, that may get down to the bottom realm of what you're asking about. I'm not sure. But I don't think we're in a position where we can do that. We can either do one, please be seated. We can either do one or the other. We can either approve this or disapprove it. If we disapprove it, they have no other option but to tear it down. Any other comments? Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
We'll close the public hearing. Open for discussion or comment or motion.
I just want to make a quick comment. In a county like Rutherford County where we grow like we do and we're short on schools and we're short on law enforcement and EMS and fire and everything else, thousands of homes being built, I think the information is there for homeowners, and certainly contractors should know what they're doing. And I think it's kind of unfair to say the county needs to go measure every patio, every driveway, every sidewalk on every single house. They're short, understaffed probably, or it's just not feasible to have that much staff to do that. But I certainly agree with everybody that said anything tonight about this. But I still go back to the responsibility for this whole thing was not created by the county's failure to do something. It was created because a contractor did not do their due diligence and understand, based on letters that they had gotten from the county, based on their experience building in the county, and I know that contractors built before in this county. That's something he should have known. So this whole thing started with a contractor that either didn't pay attention to it or felt like it was easier to get forgiveness than permission.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I've got another comment. Looks like the house, the patio or whatever it was back there, was originally built less than 20 feet from a line to begin with. So it's been off all along.
Yeah.
Okay? I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, there may be some others out there that are already.
Yes, there's probably more in that subdivision.
Yeah. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the request.
We have a motion made that is approved according to the regulations that we have. Have a second. Second. Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, it is approved. The next item we have is a request by Philip Vaught, who is requesting a special exemption approval for a barrel pit. What do you have on that, please?
Application 2016-11 involves the property, a vacant property located off McElroy Road. It's 11.66 acres. And Mr. Vaught is requesting special exception approval to allow a burrow pit on the property that's zone RL, residential low density. And this is the third time Mr. Vaught has appeared before you. His permit is approaching expiration and he needs to renew the permit. Under our process, he can have a maximum of 9 months for each approval. Nothing has changed in regards to the area that's going to be excavated from. However, engineering staff is here to address some outstanding issues that we would like to see resolved before the excavation commences, should he obtain approval tonight. We have not received any complaints regarding this burrow pit, nor did we receive any phone calls in opposition or in favor of the request. Many people did call to find out what the sign was posted on the property for, and once they learned that it was to continue the activities that had been taking place over the last couple of years, no one indicated any issues. So this is the existing site, an aerial. These are photos of the surrounding area, and if Mike, would you like to address some of the items that you would like to see resolved?
Yes. Can you go back to the aerial, the
Okay.
overhead view? the site, all in all, is in good shape. One of the things that I saw when I was out there today, that the excavation that has already taken place forms like a pit. An excavation that has taken place already forms a pit where the sediment is captured. There is a slight blowout, though, at the edge where it's kind of cutting a path towards the creek. I would like them to work with engineering staff to establish erosion prevention measures to make sure none of the sediment or silt washes into the creek in a heavy rainfall. We also need them to come in and fill out a new land disturbance permit, and also sign an updated resource extraction performance agreement. But all in all, it's in pretty good shape. They do have a gravel drive that cuts across this existing property that will act like a construction entrance to help get the mud off the tires. They do have a stream buffer along the edge that we'd like them to maintain that and protect that, not tear that down.
Looks like they've got a good buffer all the way around that there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You want to make sure that you don't have any runoff into that creek.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Big item this day and time. We have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
Hello, my name is Philip Vaught. I'm here for reapproval of a extraction permit on McElroy Road. And as far as what you want done, that's fine.
Okay.
Now, the hole was already there where we've got where the water's going out. The hole was an existing hole.
Right.
That Eric Hill at the time was here. And we had talked about letting the water exit right there. And we do have some rock there.
Right.
But we'll be glad to put some more in.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, like a little check dam right there to slow that water down.
We've actually got some more rock there, so we'll be glad to do that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Any questions?
You don't have any problems with all of the things that the county engineer wanted to do?
No. Like I say, we've already, when Eric was here, we had already addressed that, but I'd be glad to put some more rock down. In fact, we've got enough there to do what we need to do, so.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Gary, do you have a question? Anyone else? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. We have a motion on it.
Move be approved.
Be approved. Have a second.
We want to add the part about what the county engineer.
He said that he would take care of that.
Yeah.
So,
Second.
it's all right. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, it is approved. We have a request by Richard and Beth Silicone, and they are requesting a special exemption for an accessory structure before the principal structure. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-12 involves the property located at 10994 Rockville Road. It is a request for special exception approval to allow the establishment of an accessory structure prior to the principal on the property that's zone residential medium density. And Mr. Cicelone, sorry if I butchered your name, is proposing to subdivide this existing parcel that's outlined in red into two pieces, one being a 3.18 acre piece that will not have a principal dwelling on it, but it will have an existing barn that has been located on the property. The other piece actually has a principal dwelling and another outstructure upon it. Before the applicant can get final approval of the proposed subdivision plat, he would need to obtain approval to establish an accessory prior to a principal in order for a nonconformity not to be created by the division. And so that is why the applicant is here tonight. We have received phone calls inquiring as to what the sign was placed on the property for, but once they heard that it was a subdivision plat and that he just wanted to retain the barn on the property that would eventually have a house constructed upon it once the subdivision takes place and gets recorded, no one indicated any major issues or any issues with his request. So, and this is similar to a request we recently had a couple months ago. And these are photos of the surrounding area. And this is a blown up portion. It's not the entire plat because there's a lot of language on each side, but we try to just capture what the division was going to look like. He meets all the standards for the subdivision plat to obtain approval, with the exception of this existing structure that will no longer be able to come under the agricultural exemption because it's less than 5 acres. And that concludes our presentation.
We have anyone here representing this request? You come around, please.
I'd like to keep the barn. I put a lot of money into it. I live next door. My name's Richard Ciccolone. I own the property, and I'd like to keep the barn and divide. Me and my wife, we live in the house. Next to the lot, I want to divide. And I left pictures, I don't know if you have them, of the barn to show it's not, you know, like it's an old barn, but we restored it.
How old is the barn?
I would have to say the house we live in was built in 1959, so it's the Ferris's property. So maybe the barn's that old, if not older.
How long do you think it'll be before you build once you subdivide?
Depends what the bank does.
I'm assuming that the house that you build is going to have to be way back behind the other house because you won't have the width.
What's that?
Well, if you subdivide it based on that plat there, you're not going to have the width to build a house with the setbacks.
I was wanting to set it actually in front, depending on the builder.
In front of the
house.
barn?
Yes.
But it won't be as far up as the other house?
No. Kind of the new house that was built, there's a new home that was built to the side, and when me and my wife were looking, we were going to place it kind of parallel to that.
I see.
I think there's a picture of in there, the new house.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Have a motion on it.
I move to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved with the requirements. Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, it is approved. The next item is we have a request by Jean Ann Lewis, who is requesting a special exemption for a group child care. This is a daycare request. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-13 involves a property located at 133 Copper Hollow Drive. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a group child care home upon a property located in the RM zone. And this is an aerial shot of the property, and the applicant would like to operate a child care facility from her home. She's allowed up to 12 students or children. She would need to obtain the state approval for the operation of the daycare. And they are proposing to widen the driveway and fence in an area for playtime for the students. These are photos of the surrounding area. We have received some informational calls regarding this request. This is just an aerial that the applicant supplied showing their property in relationship to the others, and the fenced-in area that they're proposing to install for the playtime for the children. And I believe that's a requirement of the state. This is just the use approval. She would still have to obtain all the approvals from the state to operate the child care facility. And that concludes our presentation.
Have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around, please.
I don't have anything to add to what she said. Gonna have a daycare in my home, keep up to 12 children, babysat for years at home, but never did the licensed daycare thing. Now I'm working through the pile of paperwork to get licensed by the state with DHS to have an approved daycare.
Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. What's your motion?
Will this special exception, like if the property sells, will the special exception go along with it, or will it?
Yes, special exceptions will, unless the use is terminated beyond, I believe it's like 30 months or 36 months. And then they probably would have to come under the new. The board could include a condition that it terminate, but it is a permanent approval for the site itself.
So for 36 months?
I believe if it, unless the state law changes, because sometimes state law for vesting trumps ours, but as we have it written in the code, if the use has not been established for several years or never was established or discontinued, then they would have to, if someone came in after that time limit expired, they would have to go through the process again.
My thought process is if that property sells, if they decide to sell the property, and I just get leery that, you know, something else crazy will go in there. That's why I'm asking, will it go along with the property if it sells?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have made conditions when we approve that should she move away or sell the property, that this use is no longer valid.
Could put that in your motion. But let me point out to you, property is sold. Whoever owned the property would have to apply with the state to have a daycare. They couldn't just say we're going to have a daycare because it was previously approved. And it would be constantly monitored over the period of time by the state.
And also, if the state law allows it to 36 months before it leaves, I mean, there's nothing we can do about the state law either.
It's not easy to get approval of a daycare, and it's monitored very closely, and they could lose their license to also have a daycare if it's not kept within the standards of what the state would want. We have a motion on it.
Motion to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
It is approved. The next item we have is a request by Stan Vaught, who is asking for a special exemption for a mini storage, and this is in a commercial service zone. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-14 involves the property located at 6854 Las Casas Pike. It's a request for special exception approval for the establishment of a mini storage business upon the property that's zoned commercial services. The property was rezoned a couple years ago with the intent of developing a mini storage facility upon the property, and they received commercial services zone 2 years ago. The adjacent property, it was shortly after the adjacent property was developed as a Dollar General retail little shopping center, and that carries the same zone. You have existing businesses across the street and the county convenience center as well. We have not received any phone calls regarding in opposition of this request. However, we have received informational phone calls. If this request for special exception is approved, the applicant will be required to go under a technical review, which we call site plan review, and all of the specific standards that apply to mini storages will be verified, and they'll ultimately have to obtain Planning Commission approval for the approved engineering plans. And so tonight we are just seeking approval of the use. However, the applicant has included a conceptual plan so you can get an idea of the layout of the structures that he is hoping to erect upon the property. And within the staff report, we listed the square footages and the areas that are dedicated to office, RV storage, and mini storage units. So these are photos of the surrounding area. This is the site. There is a single-family home located upon the site. And as you can see by the conceptual plan, he plans to retain the single-family home. The development will be located towards the rear of the property, and that, again, it will be reviewed, have a much more stringent review, and more detailed plans will need to be submitted by an engineer before he can move forward and obtain any building permits. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request?
Mr. Chairman, members of the BZA, my name's Stan Vaught. My wife Terry is with me this evening. This is a piece of property we purchased 2 or 3 years ago and went through the zoning process with it at that time with this intent. Everybody on the Planning Commission knew what we were going to do, and I told them then, I said, you know, I live there. I live about 3 miles on out further at Milton. My brother lives about 2 miles or a mile and a half back toward Las Casas. We would get lynched if we don't do it correctly. The site plan, if you look at it and kind of walk you through the logic of it, speaking with the neighbor, Mr. and Ms. Young, that live to the west of the property, they are our closest residential neighbor. And we visited with them a couple of weeks ago and you know, shared with them the site plan and how we've got it laid out. And the biggest concern that Mr. and Ms. Young had and what she liked about it was that there were no garage doors opening toward their property. So if you see the site plan, we've ringed it. Obviously, we've got to secure it, you know, with a fence and then landscape it. But that was their one concern, is that they didn't have to see a bunch of garage doors. And obviously, we honored that request. Steve Steele with Huddleston Steel Engineering is doing the site plan. Kind of put it on hold. We didn't want to get it so technical and so cluttered that you ladies and gentlemen couldn't decipher what we were doing and how it is going to lay out. We believe that this is, you know, probably the first phase, or maybe first and second phase, we're not sure. Wanted to leave the existing structure intact. We believe if it's successful, we will move forward and add to it, leaving the home there is on-site security. That's kind of the long-term plan. If it doesn't work out, I may end up with a real estate office in Las Casas. I don't know. So that's kind of the intent right now. We think we want to try to take advantage of the traffic patterns that have already been established with the convenience center being there. Those of you that are familiar with the community, fire department's just down the road. The Las Casas School is right there within a 3/4 of a mile of it. So we wanted to take advantage of the traffic patterns that are already in the community and not add to it. So I hope you understand our logic, or at least we're kind of on base, but we tried to make it as least intrusive to the neighborhood as possible.
Stan, what's your timeline on starting this?
Probably depends on when my nephew can start, in all seriousness. We would like to start on it sometime next month.
So you'll have a minimum that you'll start out with, and
yes, sir,
and work from there.
Yes, sir. As soon as, and we have not submitted the site plan, although planning is aware of this. Steve's got to finish the site plan, and we're going to try to, assuming that y'all approve this tonight, we'll probably try to get that submitted sometime next week, within the next 2 weeks anyway.
Any questions? Thank you. I think you've
Thanks.
explained it all to us. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Have a motion.
Make a motion, we approve it, Mr.
Have a
Chairman.
motion to be approved.
Second?
Second. Call the roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan. Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, it is approved. The next item we have is a request by Barfield Baptist Church, and they're asking for a special exception for approval, and this would be a community assembly or a church. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2016-15, filed by Barfield Baptist Church, involves the property located at 550 Veterans Parkway and an adjacent parcel, as you see on the aerial map. They are seeking special exception approval to allow the establishment of a community assembly facility with a maximum occupancy of 150 to 500 persons on this property that's zone RM, residential medium density. And we have 3 levels of community assembly facilities. One is by right. You would just need to go through the site plan approval process, and that's less than 150 occupants. And this level is 150 to 500 persons, and it requires special exception approval. And they are proposing to have a maximum occupancy at this time of 400 attendees. These are photos of the surrounding site. We received one informational call regarding this request. If approved tonight, the applicant would need to go through the site plan review process to make sure that the site is developed properly and it meets all the standards that we have established in our development standards, as well as any other agencies that review the site plans, like the Department of Environment. This is a conceptual plan that's subject to change, but it's just a way to demonstrate that the site can accommodate the development of this size facility. Staff finds that they have currently outgrown their existing facility, and I'm assuming that that's why they need more land to expand and build a larger facility to accommodate the growth. But we find that it meets the regulations for community facilities. And that concludes our presentation.
Do you have anyone here representing the church?
I am Darren Shatlin. I'm a member of Barfield Baptist Church. We're currently located just west on the Barfield Road, approximately 1 mile west of the property off of Veterans Parkway. And we're in a triangle of roads, and we just don't have enough space to expand our building and parking as well. And so if zoning is approved, we plan to construct approximately 400 seat capacity church sometime in the future. It'll be several years down the road. And this location keeps the church in the same community. The church has been there for over 100 years. You know, we're planning on building a very nice church, approximately 24,000 square feet. We will maintain the existing home and enhance it and basically use that for administration offices. And going forward with the site plan, if approved, then we'll use an architect and follow all the building and county codes in order to get that process in place. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You said it was going to be a few years down the road. So what's going to happen to the house between now and then?
There's currently a tenant living in the house, and we've had conversations with them for them to continue to live there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. If you'll come around to come to the podium, give us your name.
My name is Cindy Long.
For the record.
My name is Cindy Long, and I live at 107 Couples Court there, and I'd mainly just have some questions about the property behind the church. The tree line there, is that going to remain? Or going to be plowed down?
It will, if I may add something, they'll have to have a vegetative screen, a landscape buffer, and a lot of times they'll keep the existing trees to meet that requirement. So I'd say a lot of those trees will remain.
Will remain, okay. The other issue is the property goes all the way back to my fence line, and in between the fence line and the tree line, there's a ditch that is hazardous because it's nasty, it causes snakes, there's a lot of brush, it causes snakes to get in my home and plant skunks under my house, and I would like to know who's going to be responsible at this point to keep that clean.
If I may also add, that's a homeowner's responsibility. The ditch is on each parcel, and it's a responsibility of the homeowner to clean that out. I mean, if there's a big problem, we'll look at it with you, but usually just routine maintenance of trimming trees and cleaning out ditches is the homeowner's responsibility.
Okay, which will become the church's responsibility, is that correct?
If the ditch is on their property, it'll be their responsibility.
Okay.
Yes. But if it straddles the property, half is on yours, half is on the church's property, each property owner maintains their portion.
Okay. So what is the best thing for us to do is finding out once the church, I'm not trying to talk to church, believe me.
What you need to do, yeah, what you need to do is sit down with the folks who are up here.
With him.
And he can answer some of your questions.
For me. Okay, but I'll be glad to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? Still a public hearing. I'm sure he'll be a good neighbor. If you'll go up to the podium, give us your name.
My name is Diane Cummings. I live at 4016 Southridge Boulevard. My property would back up against this proposal, and I just wanted to get more information on it. Traffic, lights, how often this is going to be used. Is it going to be a church, or is it for recreation, or just wanted to find out how disruptive this would be. It's open, it's flat. I just was wondering about people getting into our yard and property and swimming pool and that kind of thing.
Are you opposed to the church being built there? Is that what you're saying?
Say that I'm opposed to it, but I'd like more information about it.
Well, I think you can probably, with this other lady out there that's homeowner, sit with the preacher. Okay. And we can all pray over that. Thank you. Anyone else? We appreciate the comments of everybody that's made here. I hope they can work it out. You know, they'll quote some scripture to them. That'll get them going. You know. Any other questions? Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing. We'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion, we approve the request.
Motion made to be approved.
Second.
Second. Call a roll, please.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Veronica Buchanan,
Yes.
Joe Machado,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I thank everybody for being here today. Appreciate the comments. We try to work with everyone to try to resolve any issues. Do we have anything else?
No, sir.
We are adjourned.